It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because we wanted to see a place where motorists understand colors and understand arrows but can't understand both at the same time. Metro Nagoya has the highest car wreck count in Japan. Worst drivers on the island. That is an accomplishment. The Talk Funny podcast from Nagoyaradio.com and Nagoyacomedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Okay, we're back with Talk Funny. I'm Mark Bailey and Mike Miller's here.
Hello, everyone.
This has been out for a while now, but you saw Chappelle's Netflix special. It was the talk of the town for a while, Sticks and Stones. And, you know, younger people may not even know where that comes from, but when we were kids, our parents would tell us, listen, well, he called me a dirty Jew. Sticks and Stones, that's his problem. Mm-hmm. You think, he calls you that? That's his problem. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Now, words will get you fired. What do you think about this?
I don't know. I didn't really see where it was super controversial. There were some jokes about, Kevin Hart and what happened there, and I guess a lot of people have their feelings about that. But I didn't find it to be anything that was as controversial as it was like. I was checking my Facebook news feed, and they're like, "Don't watch the Chappelle special. Don't do this." I was like, I don't see where they got that, but
the critics are making his point for them because he said exactly that was going to happen. You remember the part where he did this has been out for a long time now, so there's no spoilers, but he did an impression for the audience. Remember that part? Mm-hmm. I'm watching you, and if you say or do anything wrong, even in the past 5 or 10 years, if I find out, I'm going to take everything you have. I'm going to get you. And he said, who's that? And people are like, oh, is it Trump? And he goes, that's you. That's the audience. That's what you sound like to me.
Yeah.
Because you're just waiting. Yeah, entertain us, but if we don't like anything that you consider entertaining, game's over. We're going to ruin your career. And he addressed the Louis C.K. thing.
Yeah.
He said, what he did wasn't great. You wouldn't want that happening with your daughters, but he was in his hotel room. He asked permission. And the girls reneged later on their permission, and they did it probably because they thought there's going to be something in it for them. At least there'll be a fun story.
Yeah. I think the thing about Louis C.K. is he had the bad luck of having this come out just when the Bill Cosby thing was hitting, and then the Weinstein thing was hitting.
Right before his movie was to be released.
The Kevin Spacey thing was hitting.
Louis C.K. had a movie coming out.
Right.
And he lost all of that.
Yeah, and I think it was really bad timing, and that was the reason. Because if you compare what he did to, say, Kevin Spacey, who's been accused of actual sexual assault, or Weinstein as well, who's been, I don't know what he's actually, has sexual harassment, and I don't know if he's been accused of rape, or I'm not sure what it was.
Which one?
Weinstein.
Yeah, in one instance he was accused of rape.
It was obvious abuse of power, but
in one instance he was accused of rape. But it's all this, it's the what do they call it? The casting couch culture, and you got to decide if you're going to play that game or not. Hey, Mike, I might have another couple of podcasts with you. Will you help me with my?
Really?
You will help me check my prostate over here? And no, I actually don't. You know what? Your podcast.
Okay, Mark. Cough.
Your podcast opportunities just dried up, and so did my prostate, by the way. No, bad example, but not that was right. But those things happened in the casting couch for almost 100 years.
Yes.
It's been that way. And you're an actress and you go to California and nobody's ever heard of you. What do you think's going to happen? The ugly girls don't make it. You've noticed that. And so I guess the correct thing is to walk out. But when you have a nice job or a movie dangled in front of you, it's kind of a quid pro quo.
Yeah.
You can't take the quo and then later ask for the quid back. Mm-hmm. You can't, if you took that deal, okay, now you can't narc on that person. That's what I don't understand is we had an incident with relatives last time I was there, and we have kind of a maid. Well, yeah, she was a maid, and she was helping us move the house and stuff. Now, she walked in on my dad in the bathroom, and my dad was worried that maybe she's going to do something because I didn't lock the door, and that's my fault. But if he had walked in on her, that would have been his fault. When is it not the man's fault? That's my question. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if she walks in and accidentally sees my genitals, that's my fault. Because I'm exposing myself to her.
Yeah, I think it's if it's more blatant, if the door's left open and you're like, hey, want to have a career?
Okay,
and,
so if she accidentally sees my genitals, I'm exposing myself. But if I accidentally see her genitals, I'm a peeping Tom. It's not the guy's fault both times. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it has to be the viewer and the viewee. The viewer should apologize. I'm sorry I walked in on you. The viewee should say, should have locked the door. But the viewer cannot sue the viewee unless the viewee can sue the viewer in another time. You see what I'm saying? So both times, the woman would file a lawsuit because he exposed himself to me, or he saw me exposing myself. Well, wait a minute, you expose yourself to him then?
Is this the party of the first part or the party of the second part?
This is that thing down by Brooklyn? Not that thing, but the thing with the other guy? That guy's got to go. Yeah. But,
no, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I mean, I think it's just, I think what happens is there's one event that happens, another event that happens, and it creates this kind of pattern, and then everybody gets caught up in this. And in walking in on someone when they're naked, kind of thing is not a huge deal. But then again, I live in Japan, where I'm used to going to the onsen and seeing everybody's things, hanging out. So
that's why I moved to Japan.
Yeah, well,
because you can't do that. You can't see that. There's some things you just can't see. Some things you can't unsee.
There's many things you can't unsee. If you're on the men's side of an onsen, I'll tell you.
So, back to the Chappelle thing. I didn't think it was outrageous, but I thought sooner or later, if George Carlin or Richard Pryor were still alive, one of those guys would have done something like this eventually, because the outrage culture is getting out of control. Okay, so let's take, for example, the Louis C.K. thing. What he did was wrong. What's the penalty for that? He can never work again? Blacklisted forever? I understand Cosby, he committed crimes. If he committed crimes, charge him in court of law. That's the society we live in. And if he's found by a jury of his peers, if he's found innocent, which he was not, then he faces punishment. But there is no crime like that Louis C.K. committed. It was inappropriate, but he's a comic. He's got things wrong with him. I'm just speaking for some of us comics.
What makes you say
We've
that,
all
Mark?
got something wrong with us. Okay, fine. Punish him. But, I mean, losing a movie? That should be in the contract first. If you expose yourself to women and they object, then you lose a movie. Let's sign a contract like that. It needs to be in the print, right? But you can't make up the punishment later. And I heard on where he eventually went back to one of the Long Island clubs, comedy clubs. You may have heard this, and the owner was discussing with some of the female comedians that by the way, I'd never heard of, and they said, well, he should never be able to work again. And the owner said, where? Like, can he not even work at Walmart? I mean, can he never work anywhere? I mean, isn't that a little harsh, considering the punishment that the movie producer who's still in the...
Oh, yeah. What's his name? Polanski.
Roman Polanski. He's in exile, and he may be charged if he lands here, but he was convicted of a crime and then he absconded.
But he's a genius, Mark.
There's no,
If you were a director of that caliber, I mean,
but some of us think
I would just, I'd just let you off the hook.
Some of us think Louis C.K. is a genius, Yeah. But he did something wrong. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, slap his hand, fine him, but he can never work again. It's a little harsh. And Kevin Hart, something we talked about that on another podcast. Something he said in a tweet, 8-10 years ago. I had people that have come to our shows who asked me to sign this petition. We talked about that says, well, yeah, we'll accept your apology if you pay $500,000. Okay, well, then there's another guy with another apology and another list. Listen, forgive him or don't, and move on. You don't like Kevin Hart anymore? Don't go to his shows. We talked about that before. This Monty Python is very, very offensive that you show at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my 2-year-old shouldn't be watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, your 2-year-old shouldn't be watching that.
Yeah.
That's not Monty Python's fault. That's a parenting problem right there.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I think the Kevin Hart thing was as well blown out of proportion. But we talked about that in a previous podcast about how, this idea of dredging up stuff from years past. And what he said was actually, it was a joke. He said, what has he said? And Chappelle mentioned it in his show. He said, I would hit him over the head with a dollhouse or something like that, which was that was the joke, right?
Chappelle said, okay, let's follow this through. If we really thought that would happen, he would have to go buy a dollhouse for his son. Okay, that's ridiculous.
The joke is that he set up his son to be gay. That's the joke.
And he didn't have a dollhouse, so he couldn't break a dollhouse over his head. So I don't know. It could be only words. It's basically, I don't agree with it, but let me take the devil's advocate position. I think the SJWs, first of all, they're just waiting to get angry at something. To those people, I say, Mike Miller at Yahoo. No, there's some people just waiting to get outraged. I'll take their side of it for a second. They're saying that that Dave Chappelle is making fun of transgender people. And they think this because Dave Chappelle said he likes to make fun of transgender people. He actually said that. Mm-hmm. And he said, but it's not because I'm cruel, it's because they're funny. Mm-hmm. He said, if you were born with a penis and you weren't supposed to be born one, that's hilarious to a comedian.
Yeah. Well, and then he did the thing, what if I was born as, a person I thought I was Chinese or something?
And he said, you think you don't like that joke? You know who really hates that joke? My wife. She's Chinese. He did self-deprecating humor, which I think is important if you're going to go out on something brave. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that brave. He just said things that we all think.
Yeah.
We're all thinking it, but we're afraid to say it on Twitter. And I'll point out he didn't say it on Twitter because he knows better. And that imitation that he did of the audience kind of realized that's kind of true. We actually kind of are, and they proved it. I think you pointed out before, nobody in that audience got angry.
No,
not one person.
Of course.
It's
they all
somebody,
paid to see him.
Yeah.
They all like his humor.
So he just insulted them. He insulted white people. He insulted trans. He insults everybody. He had a great take on the gun culture. Yeah, he said, the white people, I think I have a way for you to get on board with tackling whatever we're going to do about guns. He said, I think it's up to the black man to each get a gun.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
He said, remember the heroin epidemic? Remember the crack epidemic? You don't remember that because it wasn't your problem.
Yeah.
But, I hear about the heroin and the opiate problem because it's a white problem. He said, whatever society needs to tackle, make it a white problem.
It's so true.
And then it'll be
It's so true.
tackled.
And that's what a lot of people, not just Chappelle has said that, a lot of other people have said that before.
And he can say that. Well, there's a guy I listen to, Adam Curry. He's on a show called No Agenda. And I don't want to miscategorize him. He's a married guy, but he kind of swings, He kind of says that he does. And he said, I guess you would call him non-binary. He said, I am totally cool with being non-binary. And he's totally in with that. And he really tries, just like Patton Oswalt. In his special, he said, look, I'm on your side, LGBTQ. I can't remember anymore,
Yeah.
I'm on your side, but you keep changing it, and I keep trying to learn it, and I'm on your side.
Yeah.
You keep changing stuff, and then if I forget one letter, then you try to, take away my career.
Yeah.
Chill out. And so Dave Chappelle in his special, what he did was, he said, they don't even like each other. If you had LGBTQ, he said if you had them all in a car, none of them want to ride with each other. Only the queer guy's knocking on the door trying to get in.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you're just here for the ride.
Yeah.
And it was a great analogy about riding in
it
a
was
car.
a really well-structured bit that he did.
And this Adam Curry, he said before that you can't treat them as one community because it's true. The L's and the G's don't always like each other. They vote the same way a lot of times, so they want each other, but they don't hang out with each other. And the T's really confuse. I'm just paraphrasing what Dave Chappelle said. The T's confuse the G's and the L's because the L's don't know, is it a guy or a girl? I'm cool with it if you're a girl, but if you play against me in tennis and you beat me, I don't think that's fair because you're actually, come on, you're actually a guy. I mean, you've had 30 years of testosterone.
Yeah.
And that's something. That's not nothing, right? And so that's why you're not allowed to wrestle against women. And so each letter in that group doesn't know what to think of the others.
I think the one thing that they had in common, that they have sometimes in common now, but not as much, is that historically they were, shunned and they were discriminated against. And so that pushed them together into this group. But like you said, that doesn't mean they all have the same interests necessarily.
And now people are listening to the group. Okay, what do you guys want? And they're like, hold my beer, hang on, we'll figure it out. They don't know. They want different things.
Well, you ask any group, many groups like that nowadays, like, what do you want? And one person will say, well, I represent this entire group, and this is what we want. And other people will say, no, you don't represent me. I didn't elect you. You're not a representative of my little group. So there's always a war going on.
So I think the summary of the Dave Chappelle thing, it was something that Lenny Bruce would have done, George Carlin would have done if he were still alive. And it's something that had to be said because comics, we were all kind of wrestling with this. And we have, I have a pronoun joke I'm going to do next time. I was thinking of doing it before, but, Chappelle, it wasn't that bad. And I just thought it was better than his earlier stuff. It was a little boring to me, some of the specials he had out.
Oh, you didn't like the previous two? I liked them quite a bit.
Kind of chatty. I don't dislike them.
More storytelling than joke kind of. Yeah.
Not so much writing and just kind of chit-chat. I mean, I could watch him for 6 hours. He's very entertaining. It's one of my favorite comics. But I thought this one was very well written because he really put a lot of the order of it was great. He had callback and he insulted everybody.
Right.
He just said, chill out. I'm going to get to your group eventually.
Yes.
And we're all going to be offended together, But then the SJW say, well, he should lose his career opportunities. That's exactly what he said was going to happen, which is the joke. That's the joke.
I think he's at the point in his career, though, where he can't lose any career opportunities. He's basically writing his own ticket.
And then he had a prologue, which you can see on YouTube. It's actually not on the Netflix here in Japan, but apparently it's on in the U.S. He talks about it. There's an epilogue that goes with this. You can find this on YouTube.
Oh, I'll have to look for that.
And it's just question and answer with the audience. One of them was, he said, all the material that I just did, the trans, the LGBT and all of that, he said there was a trans lady in the audience. She was laughing at everything I said. And he said, I was about to get to the trans part, and I was thinking, should I do it? Because she's there watching. And he said, I decided it would be wrong not to do it because she's there. I should do it. If she wasn't there, I'd do it. So if she is there, I should do it because I'm going to find out what she thinks. So he did it. The rest of the audience is looking at her to see
Yes,
if they can
if
laugh
it's
at her.
appropriate.
Yeah. And then she came out. She came